Hello everybody, welcome back. Try and make this as quick as possible. Got a fair bit of information to run through. So we're talking Bitcoin, and I'll make some videos on some of these other altcoins, these smaller cap ones that have seemed to have pumped recently after this. So there's no need to mix it all together. So in a nutshell, Bitcoin's finding rejection every day. That we've broken out of the descending channel, which is good. So back into, I suppose, a major area of accumulation. Well, we never left it really, but because we had this descending channel, we thought that this is going to descend until we decide to break out of it. So we're out of it. So that's one tick in the favour of the bulls, just in the favour of a formation break. But as far as moving averages are concerned, they're still pretty hardcore. They're still pretty hard going. So since breaking out of there and for one day closing outside of the 10 exponential for the last 4 days in a row, finding rejection on that, basically not being able to handle it and closing below it. So that basically means we're closing below all major moving averages on the daily, and that is not a good thing to be seeing really. The histogram is ticking up on the MACD, which for what it's worth isn't worth a great deal. And obviously we're still in a downtrend. You don't need me to tell you that. We are still in a downtrend with these death cross, and again below all major moving averages is it's not really a sign of strength, is it? But what we'll have a quick look at now is just the Dixie. So the Dixie kind of fell off a cliff with the inflation report. That's fine. And we were talking about how this uptrend is likely to have finished for the moment anyway, and it'll have to either consolidate and then accumulate and then either carry on or just hang around at this general level for a little while. That was before we got the sell-off as a result of the well, I wouldn't even call it a sell-off, but the big move down as a result of the inflation report. But if we were to look at this on the long term, as far as the weekly is concerned, that did push us all the way down to the 20 weekly, and that is an obvious place for a bounce anyway. So it's looking okay for the dollar. And again, we've been speaking about how the dollar's going to be in an uptrend for a decent period of time. We've been speaking about this for months, so it doesn't really come as any surprise. And if you look at this on a weekly, it is still pretty bullish, to be honest with you. There's no reason to doubt its continued march up with the tapering that's already been in play, or I should say already been announced way back. So just because there was a very high inflation report, I don't think they're going to be speeding up the tapering anymore. I think they're going to have to see what their current plan creates by the next time they do a report. Don't think they're going to be speeding it up anymore. I think they're going to be doing what they're doing already and allow for this to balance out, which I think it will. I think the dollar will balance out, either if not in this area. I don't think it's going to go any higher than that. And we spoke about how Bitcoin is obviously affected by the Dixie and the dollar's strength just through default, through association with stable coins at least. But it's not the end of the world. We saw the Bitcoin bull market begin in 2019 with a dollar value that's higher than the one that is now. So it's not the be all and end all, although we think about the sentiment that goes along with it now. I think people are just going to assume that a dollar strength going back to only pre-pandemic levels. By the way, we were in a bull market all over here, and with a dollar or with a Dixie that was worth more, or a stronger Dixie anyway, should I say? So it's not the end of the world. I think the biggest portion of this rally is already in, and we will likely go up to revisit these top areas and maybe break out into these other areas, but it's not the majority of this rally has taken place. But that doesn't necessarily mean that Bitcoin can't dump or can't pump. I just think that focusing on the Dixie too much at this point, it's neither here nor there. So we just had a quick look at it. We won't talk about it too much anymore. Like I said, we've been speaking about it for months now, and it has had an impact, but there's no need to focus on it anymore. This is the crypto market cap on a weekly, including Bitcoin, and we've got 3 drives of hidden bullish divergence on the RSI there, which is good, and that matches Bitcoin's 3 drives of hidden bullish divergence as well on the weekly. So the weekly is looking okay for Bitcoin as far as those signals are concerned. However, it looks much better for the total market cap. The total market cap, even though they've got the same drives, the overall picture for the total market cap is better than that of Bitcoin's on its own. So the market as a whole is better than Bitcoin itself. So if we go to the total market cap excluding Bitcoin, the chart is even better than that, including Bitcoin, which obviously makes sense because obviously Bitcoin seems to be the thing that's kind of not hurting the market. Well, I mean, it is damaging the market. Most things do follow Bitcoin on the way down, but recoveries seem to be taking place with altcoins in secret, and this is what I've been saying for at least the last couple of weeks, 2, 3, maybe more weeks. The secrets are in the sats. We can still look at altcoins and actually trade altcoins successfully while Bitcoin is doing this sideways and down move. And maybe just if Bitcoin accumulates for a period of weeks or months in this zone, there's going to be more opportunity with altcoins. This, I wouldn't say, is a particularly bearish chart. This is actually pretty good. We've got buy signals on the long term for the Ichimoku cloud. We had a cupping handle, which you could argue is kind of still a cupping handle, but not a great deal. And obviously we got the hidden bullish divergence going on, and this is all just weekly, so we're talking long term. So this does match the idea that we are accumulating for Bitcoin, and then that will transfer to strength within altcoins. So that all looks pretty good. And again, if we look at this on the daily, yeah, it's not the sign, it's not the picture of strength here, definitely not. But we are trying to hold on to a 200 exponential here and a 200 simple. So we are at a very strong level of support here. Hopefully we can reclaim it. What we're seeing on the very short term is what I can see here is basically an asymmetrical triangle formation is really that's taking place. But again, this is just market cap, so this is more volatile than anything else. We're more or less at the apex of it now, so we are looking for a break one way or another. But because today's price action is a little bit droopy, there's going to be more uncertainty in the market. It's trading day as well, so we're going to see more when the American markets open in a few hours. Again, all of this is, the grinding out these areas here is just fueling more uncertainty for those who want to trade crypto. And I get that. Like, people want to make the most of what they've got. They want to trade uptrends. They want to trade a strong market. They don't want to be trying to speculate on buying lows. I mean, it's okay for me to try and do that. I appreciate I've probably got a little bit more to play with than your average retail investor, but if you're looking to have, I suppose, instant gratification trades or just better certainty, risk to reward, then I can completely understand the being hesitant around these zones because there is uncertainty. I mean, there is a simple way to look at this, right? Which is that, yeah, this is an accumulation zone as far as I can see, but it will all be cancelled out if we break down below 35 or 36,000, which is basically down here, and then that would be a bear market, and then we could talk about much lower lows. This area probably wouldn't hold like it did in the past. I mean, there's a chance that it would. You'd probably get a decent bounce from it, and that's about 28,000 where we found our double bottom in the past, but it probably wouldn't hold if we enter a bear market. That would likely break down, and we could end up coming down to just below 20,000, between 16 to 18,000, right? That's the most realistic area for a bear market to end. If we measure the absolute top to where that would likely go down to, it's a 74% retracement. It would be unreasonable to imagine that Bitcoin retraces much more than that, given the institutions and I suppose you could call it adoption to an extent, that it's seen this time round. Yeah, so I think that the fight for the circulating supply would be really, really on at those levels, because again, at that stage, if you think about using this as far as an investment's concerned, if you were to be buying at this low, so let's just say 18,000, what's the worst that could happen? We come down by another 32% or so, back down to 12,000. Be unlikely that we break down below that or go down below 10, but it would only be a short time if we were down there. It wouldn't be long. So the risk to reward immediately would be a bit high. There'd be no need to go crazy on derivatives, but it wouldn't take long, less than a year, for that to finally turn around and then start to reclaim these zones and then go back into the full-on bull market with the inevitable, super high targets that everybody refers to, which I guess in a way then nothing's certain, but I mean, it's mathematically likely that over time these peaks over here will look similar to these peaks over here, in the previous bull market top and the previous rally peak over here. These will also be dwarfed by what comes next, whether it's this year, next year, or 5 years. So that, like I say, there's no such thing as an absolute certainty, but when it comes down to what's, I suppose, built into the way that crypto or Bitcoin specifically, not so much crypto, but Bitcoin gains its strength and gains its price through the fundamentals, which is something I obviously don't really talk about too much, but the fundamentals for Bitcoin are pretty clear, to be honest with you. Then yeah, it is only a matter of time before these peaks over here end up looking like this, or like this. And so yeah, the fight for the bottom would be a bit more aggressive the lower we go, especially if we reach these specific lows. And again, if we reach that low, I mean, the risk to reward would be unbelievable. You would certainly be looking to buy that dip. But again, we're not there yet. We're still what I consider to be an accumulation. So even if we do accumulate in here, right, and we work our way out and we end up going to make new all-time highs, which I think is the most likely scenario, then yeah, when a bear market does kick in, there's nothing to stop it from going down 70, 75, maybe even 80% from its absolute peak. I just don't see this as a potential peak. I just see this as a similar scenario to what we had over here. This has obviously got a different fundamental reason for it to continue to go down. Basically, we're talking the dollar stuff. We're talking the overall markets doing the same thing really, and Bitcoin accentuating that. But it's not really a massive problem. And again, the same analysis applies. Rather than boring you all to death, we're just uploading the same video again and again and again. We said that this is likely, given what was going on in the outside world. You know, the Megatron virus. We said after we came down here that next day, I said we're going to have to find a range. I expect the range to be between 49,500 and 40,000, give or take a few wicks, which is what's happening so far, and that this is going to be a general area of accumulation, and that's what we're getting at the moment. So again, it's the same as I've been saying the entire time, and until we break out to the down and start to find, you know, a much lower low, you know, down towards the actual 30,000 upper 20s, you know, where we would say bear market is at this stage, bear market. We're still doing what I expected us to do in the first place. So it is, you know, what I call squeaky bum time, because there's nothing confirmed. We've got some hidden bullish divergence on weeklies, which suggest that the bigger move is likely to end up being one of a pump rather than a dump, but it doesn't mean that it can't break down, because remember, this wick happened because of things outside of the chart. And now the chart is playing out as expected because we've gone into a new range. But there's always things that can take place outside of a chart, and those things are taking place as we speak. You know, so we are still at the mercy of things that we can't see and visualize on here, even though there are bullish signs for long-term continuation on this one. Short term, anything could happen, and just like this knocked us down into a previous area, because if it wasn't for this, Bitcoin could have easily managed to accumulate at a higher level, but it didn't. This happened and it brought us down to this level. So if something else happens that brings us down, like I say, that we can't account for on this chart, then yeah, it would probably break the structure to such an extent that a bear market would be inevitable, because traders will trade what they see in front of them, which is exactly what you want to do. And even though you can argue that, you know, this wasn't a natural move, it still happened, and now you're able to trade this zone. Something else could happen to bring us down, and then you'd have to trade this zone, and you would be in such a situation at that point that a bear market would be in play, definitely confirmed at that point there. And you'd have to play the bear market for what it's worth. So rather than trying to blindly buy dips, you would definitely want to be more cautious, you know, and you can buy dips, just make sure that you sell them as well, which is kind of what we've been talking about with the altcoins recently. But yeah, I mean, the trend would be so significantly down that the hope of it turning around anytime soon is pretty unlikely. You'd need to see these moving averages at least start to balance out like this before you could talk about any kind of entry point, because an accumulation is going to be unlikely. Similar to what happened here, basically. We came crashing all the way back down. These lower term moving averages basically merged into one, started an uptrend, and then we got our golden crosses over here, and the bull market was confirmed, and it's kind of been like that ever since. So yeah, there is reason to think, you know, bear market, but right at this very moment in time, not really entertaining it. It's still the same situation that it's always been, which is an accumulation at this particular level now. So let's grind out these lows, see what kind of reaction we have around them, and yeah, we'll hope for the best. Hopium. Together we're strong. Right, I'll leave it with you there. Hope you have a nice day. Take it easy.